What's going on, everybody? Cheers. Happy Wednesday, or whatever day of the week it is when you're watching or listening to this. Welcome to the With Her Two Hands podcast, where each week we celebrate the women who build, fix, and make the things that make the world go around with her own two hands. I am your host, Bogey, and I am so excited about tonight's guest. She is a body technician out of Connecticut. I've been following her on social media for some time. She's incredibly skilled, has a great perspective, and really just shares a lot of useful information on her social media. If you don't follow her, make sure you go follow her after this is over and check out some of her content. But before we bring tonight's guest on, I want to thank our sponsor for tonight's episode is DriveTime. They've been a partner on this series for many years now. If you're not familiar with them, definitely go check them out in the link below. On the surface, they are just a used car reseller. However, behind the scenes, they also rehab all of those cars before they resell them, which means they have a whole network of body professionals, painters, mechanics, detailers, you name it. So if you're looking for a new car or you're looking for a new place to have a career, you're definitely going to want to go check them out. They do a ton of work behind the scenes to bring more women into the trades, bring more diversity into trades, to actively seek it out, but also just to bring new talent into the industry in general, creating great opportunities and removing some of those barriers of entry that we normally see for young people to enter the industry. So really great organization, and I'm really proud to partner with them on this series. And I'm so grateful for each and every one of you for being a part of the series, for coming back week after week, for meeting these incredible women, for giving me a chance to shine a light on all of the amazing women who are out there kicking butt every day in the trades. You know, generally, we make up less than 10% across the trades, less than 2% in some industries, some even tinier than that. And so very small percentages, but there are lots and lots and lots of amazing women kicking butt every day, and they rarely get their stories shared. They rarely get a light shown on them. So I hope to do that in just some small way here. And I thank you guys for being a part of that and hopefully helping us normalize seeing women in the trades. All right, guys. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on tonight's guest, Miss Cassandra Tedone. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I am fantastic. I am so excited to meet you finally after all of these months and months of me hounding you on social media is really what's been happening.
Well, I love it. And it is an honor and privilege to be on here with you today. So I really do appreciate it.
Heck yeah. You are an incredibly talented woman. I watch your videos. You are so super helpful with all of the tips that you share, and the work that you do is super complex. It's really cool to see. I feel like there's, we know, and anybody who's watching this knows, like, women make up such a small minority of trades folks in general, but I feel like within the body shop world, women who are doing what you do is like a teeny tiny minority. We see a lot of females who are doing paint and that kind of stuff, and that's awesome. Not to downplay that, because that's super cool, but we don't see a lot of women doing the real, like, structural nitty gritty stuff that you do. So I want to go back in time a little bit. Like, how the heck did you get into this line of work?
Well, first of all, I do have to agree with you. I don't know if they just don't post reels on social media or if they don't exist. So I really don't know. But
That's fair.
That's one of my goals, is to kind of stay in it as long as I physically and mentally can. Like, I want to be that lady where it's like, oh my God, she's still doing that. So that's kind of my goal. Be an old, body tech. But anyway,
no, I love that.
Get into it. Let me see. So
I love that as a goal. I love that as a goal. I have to sidetrack for a hot second, though, because it's so great. So as many know, like, I was on a TV show called All Girls Garage for a long time, and I always joked that I wanted to stay on it long enough for it to become Old Girls Garage. And I was just gonna be like the little old lady being like, I got it.
Exactly, like hunched over really bad.
Totally.
In style, though.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So did you grow up wanting to be a body tech? Like, how did this happen?
So I drew a picture of my path to become a body tech, and this is what it looks like.
Okay.
So, like, here we got the danger zones, and then we got the yay up here.
Oh,
and
my God.
Right now we're kind of in the yay zone.
Okay.
So this is what it looks like. I do have a little bullet point list of how I became a body tech, though. I'm a paper lady. So this was my legit path. Was first of all, I started in retail management. I worked installing solar, so I did a bunch of jobs before,
Oh,
and
wow.
then I kind of was like, okay, I want to be in a specialized trade, and like it was attractive to me.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't know anything about cars. I wanted to do something I never done. So I went to Lincoln Tech in 2017. I dropped out of Lincoln Tech in 2017
Okay.
once I secured my first job, which was priming at an auction. Don't drop out of school, stay in school, please. It's a great thing to do. I still owed the money, stay in school. Um, I tried whole other jobs. So I did like office work, admin work, and then I worked a bunch of positions within the industry. So I worked prepping, priming, buffing, detail, parts, every other job besides being a tech. Um, I did have multiple bipolar episodes surrounding losses in my life. I relapsed after having 5 years clean after my dad passed away. So, like, so many ups and downs. Now I'm back at almost 4 years clean. No one held me back in this industry. I held myself back mostly. So, yeah, I got in my way a lot. And the only thing I did right was I never gave up. So that's kind of like my story is I just kept coming back. So people were kind of like, holy shit, holy S, like, what? And I'm like, I'm back. You know what I mean? The right people saw my potential and helped me get to where I am today. And I just love what I do. Like, I finally got to a place where I'm like, what's up? This is me. I love what I do. And nothing can really fluster me, I guess.
I love that. It's a beautiful nutshell. That's fantastic. I love your transparency and your honesty about things because Lord knows, like, nobody's path is linear into any of this, right? Like life in general, right? Whether you're in the trades or not in the trades, like your path to wherever you're at, it's always like a jumbled mess, right? And what people see on social media is like the
Yeah.
polished, perfect, finished end, and like look how great
Yeah.
everything is. And it's like nope, the path to get here was like really bumpy and crazy. I feel bad for anybody who's watching or listening to this in podcast form because you missed her amazing art skills of her graph of her path success. Which means you got to come back and watch this on YouTube, folks who are listening. You're missing out. Great art skills here. But I think you probably get the point from hearing this. So all right, so let's dig into some of this a little bit. You said you were always attracted to this idea of having like a specialized trade or skill. What what drew you to that? What made you think along those lines when you were younger? That kind of pushed you in that direction of learning a skilled trade because that's not the path that a lot of folks go, right?
Yeah.
Male or female.
Um, I feel like working in solar construction, I did commercial solar. It was really awesome for a couple of years. But then I was kind of like, I like the trades, but I don't want to be outside anymore. Like that kind of wore off for me a little bit. So I was just kind of brainstorming. You know, I didn't just always have a love for cars. I didn't always like if you talk to me about performance, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. There's a lot of stuff I do know, but that's what's so attractive about this trade is you're never going to learn everything. Like as a body tech, you're expected to know mechanical, you're expected to know electrical, just every aspect of cars, and that's just not possible. And that's the part that's attractive is like I'm never going to probably call myself an A tech, which is to me it just means you can get any job and do it with no help.
Mm.
So that's exciting to me.
I'm glad you brought that up because I feel like the whole idea of if that's the definition of A tech, then nobody is, right? Because nobody
Right.
can do anything without any help at all. Like maybe for
Yeah.
the most part, right? Maybe you can do a lot of jobs by yourself, but like everybody needs a something, right? Everybody needs the team. Everybody needs support. Nobody knows everything.
Yeah.
I like that perspective. That's cool. So, okay, so you weren't necessarily into cars. How did this come across your path? I find, particularly with women, but I'm finding increasingly with men, like there's a lot of career paths that we just don't know exist that we would maybe really love, but if we're never exposed to them, if we never see them, it doesn't ever occur to us that this would be something we'd excel at. How did body tech come across your periphery to become something that you wanted to pursue?
I love it because you're like, okay, but still, how did this
But still,
occur?
like, how? Yeah. Like, I
And to
like
be honest,
digging. I like digging.
dude, like I don't know because I
That's
love
okay.
fashion. That's like my passion,
Okay.
fashion and
Interesting.
art and stuff like that. So I do that on the side, but just I don't know. When I tried it, it just stuck with me, and I wanted to keep going back to it. No matter what else I tried, I just kept
Yeah.
getting drawn back to it. So at a certain point, I had to just acknowledge it and be like, this is something that I should take seriously. And when I was given the opportunity by my boss to work in the body shop, I was like, okay, let's do this thing and
Okay.
really give it a fair try instead of
Okay.
just
So
going here and there.
that first taste that you had, was that just kind of by accident? Like you took a job because it was a job and then you enjoyed it and fell in love with it? Like that first
Um,
taste that you got, the first time you got to try it.
the first time was when I was at Lincoln Tech. They kind of did some sourcing for you as a student. So I got my job at Southern Auto Auction and I
Okay.
was a primer there. So it was like
What does that mean?
a,
What's a primer?
a primer. So basically the body work comes to you pretty much ready in 320 and then you just prime. So I was just
Oh,
priming,
okay.
yep, priming all day, prepping all day, and I kind of just got hooked to it.
Okay. And then as far as why pursue, so you started out almost going down the paint side of things, and you've got this fashion interest. Was there an interest in going into paint more so than doing the heavy duty work that you're doing currently? Is there a reason why that was? It just what came up as an opportunity and then you enjoyed it, or
Um, I kind of felt like that was the way people wanted me to go because I was already with this background of prepping. But
yeah.
my first shop I worked at actually didn't have a frame machine, so they actually outsourced some of the work.
Okay.
Um, so once I kind of saw like the bigger picture at other shops, what they did and with the frame machine and with body work, I was just kind of like, it sparked my interest more than I think paint did.
Okay.
And as much as it's fun and it's pretty and it's cool because I love what painters do,
Mhm.
I just didn't really see myself like fitting into that, I guess, as much.
Okay. That's fair. Okay. So, for folks who are listening or who are watching who don't know the body shop world and what's involved in that, because I think, there's this, for an outsider, average John and Jane Doe, they get into a car accident, they bring their car to the body shop, they have no idea what goes on behind the scenes there. And it's like this magical place where things come out beautiful when they're done. So, explain to folks like what your role is in the body shop and what it is that you like. What's an average day look like for you? What kind of work are you doing?
So an average day for me kind of looks like, or at least what my job responsibilities are tearing down the car. So basically taking everything apart to the damage. So as far as that goes back, making a list of parts we need, working with the estimator to order the right parts for the job, um, making a repair plan, as a team, and fixing the job. So if it's a dent or pulling the frame or whatever the damage is, just fixing it, and then um, it'll go to the paint shop. Sometimes we prime it, which is controversial because it's a paint shop activity, but we try to help, and so sometimes we'll get it into primer. It'll come back to the body shop where we put it together, or if I'm working on something else, someone else will put it together. So we kind of work as a team to just get it done. Um,
Nice. Okay. And what like there's a whole range. Like I'm privy because I've been watching your social media, but folks who haven't, like you do a range of stuff from like tiny, like detailed paintless dent removal to like replacing massive parts of the car and stretching frames and doing all sorts of stuff. Like, talk a little bit about the diversity of type of work that you do.
yeah, so you're right. We can get something in where the customer maybe says, "Hey, I don't want it painted. I just want it to look better." And those are kind of fun because, like you said, it's PDR, and you get to kind of test your limit with PDR. When I'm not a PDR technician, that's a whole. It has its own, field.
Mhm.
People can specialize in it. So I wouldn't say I'm a PDR technician, but like you said, I kind of act as one in those scenarios.
Yeah.
And for the glue pull repair, I use it as like a rough, like I rough my repair out with that. So like to me, there's nothing else that can get out a huge dent of metal all at once. And that's really like the main thing I would say about it and I love about it is that you can put a glue tab on like this big and like rough the dent out instead of using the tiny glue puller. You're gonna sit there and be like pulling little, you know how it is.
Yeah. No, totally.
So I love to like get it started with the glue pull repair. We use the Kiko product, Cam Auto Glue. We use the glue at the frame machine. So I'll put a glue tab on and put a chain and pull it out, and it's it's fun. It's controversial still because it's another step. So a
Mm.
lot of like senior technicians that I've heard from at least will be like, but I don't think it's going anywhere. I think people are definitely going to keep going the glue pulling route, just because it
What's the alternative that the older guys are saying no, they don't want to do that? Is it just like hammer it out, or what's the thought process?
pretty much like
Okay.
maybe a slide hammer, maybe weld the tab on, use a slide hammer, the frame machine, which is fine. Like it's still going to do the repair, but it's causing more damage to the panel than maybe you would want or your shop would want. So it just depends on you and your shop and your situation.
Yeah.
Sometimes it makes more sense to just do the repair that way if it has to get done super fast, but
Yeah.
oftentimes the glue pulling doesn't take too much extra time.
It's interesting. There's like through across the trades, there's always this like hesitancy and resistance to new technology and new techniques. And there's always a happy medium in there somewhere because like the old timey techniques, like it's great to maintain that and to pass that on and to learn that, but then also integrate the new stuff too. Cause we don't want to lose all the old knowledge, but like sometimes the new stuff really is better, y'all.
Yeah, sometimes it's worth a try. I mean, what's to lose? You know,
Right.
like even people on my videos, I look at my comments. They're just
Yeah.
come on. Everyone looks at their comments once in a while, and it's interesting to see what gets people worked up. Like I'm work smart, not hard. So like even pre pulls or sheet metal pulls, I'm not using a slide hammer when I can just hook up the frame machine really quick. It's stuff like that where it's like I try not to hurt myself, basically.
What a concept. What a concept. I think sometimes it's honestly jealousy because it seems like your shop where you work seems to have some of the like top of the line tools and stuff kind of at your disposal. So I think it's really easy to poke fun, but I think it often comes from like, well, if we don't have that kind of fancy equipment, we don't get to do that, right? Like, so I think there's a little bit of jealousy there from folks who maybe don't have access to that kind of stuff. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who
I
knows?
never thought about it like that.
So, okay, so you dropped out of school and for anybody who missed this at the beginning, she said very clearly, don't drop out of school, y'all. It's important. School is good. Um, so how have you been learning all of this and how do you stay up on new technology? Is it all been just on the job that you've been learning?
Yeah, I mean, mostly on the job and social media is great. I follow a lot of people who are willing to share their skills and answer questions, which is
Yeah.
awesome. So it's like having those people be accessible. It's a huge tool that I've learned. And I'll go to Alan, my boyfriend, who I also work with, and I'll say, "Look at this! Like, show me how to do this. Like, it's amazing." And he's like, "Okay, we have that." Or like, so just taking in all that information, but trying to be chill about it too, because I get excitable.
That's I mean, I think that's a good thing. You're hungry for the knowledge, and I think I always think that that's like the number one most important thing. People are like, "What's the most important skill you should have as a tech?" And it's like hunger, a desire to learn, and a curiosity. And if you have that, then everything else can be learned or figured out or taught. But you have to want to know it. So that's
Yeah.
cool. So this shop that you're at, has this been like, I know you bounced around a little bit kind of leading up to getting to where you're at. You've been there for some time now, yeah?
Yep, so I've almost been here 3 years.
Okay.
While we're on the topic, I was wondering if I could throw like a shout out really quick.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, cool. So I would like to give a shout out to you for having me on the podcast, first
Hmm.
of all. My boyfriend, Alan Tiwo, who teaches me a lot of really good skills. He's a great leader and partner. My parents, my mom, Mr.
You're
and
so
Mrs.
cute.
Sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Marquis, and my boss and his wife, so Bob and Janet, the owners of Vernon Collision Center in Manchester, Connecticut, and all the other shops that have given me a chance when I probably wasn't ready and definitely wasn't ready. So thank you, because this would not be possible without all of you guys. I do not do this by myself by any means. Like you said, I mean, even you reached out to me while I was in the hospital and you're like, hey, be on my podcast. And I was like, I can't right now. I'm in the hospital. You're like, no worries, just let me know when you come out. I'm like, see, these are my people. So it's people like you that are like really helping them around. Even my boss, he's like, even if you have to work 5 minutes a day, he's like, you always have a job here. And I'm
Mm,
like, what? Like I wasn't used to that
yeah.
level of just supportiveness, and that's really been key for me. And now I'm
Yeah.
pretty much back to where I was because of people like you and my boss and my circle of people. So I think it really is true what people say, oh, you just have to find the right shop for you. I was always like, what does that mean? Like, so I went to a few shops and then I found out what that meant.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, just thanks. Like you're really contributing to a really good culture, and I think more people are going to join this trade because of you.
Oh. Well, thank you so much. And I love your shout outs and I love the gratitude. I feel like that's like such a it goes so much farther than I think people realize. Like having that perspective shifts everything, right? Being appreciative of the opportunities. I love your acknowledgement of like I probably wasn't ready yet for a lot of the opportunities I was given. And I think that's quite a shift from, a lot of young people in general who get this impatience of like, well, I'm ready for it now. Like, well, you
Yeah,
might not actually be, right?
yeah, that was me. Trust me. Anyone that knows me knows. I'm like, let's do this now, and that's not always going to happen. So
Yeah,
just hang in
absolutely.
there, basically.
So how did you find this amazing shop that has been so supportive? Is it chance that you wound up at this phenomenal shop? How did you find them?
Kind of. I was in one of my rough spots, and I was delivering cars for Carvana, and I'm like, you know what? Let me just try and go back in my trade. Like to me personally, I ruined my reputation. Alan says it wasn't that bad. To me, I felt like I did. So I was in like low self esteem, down in the dumps, delivering cars, trying to make people's days still. And I went online and there was a prepper position open. So I was like, I can do that. And then I got in the prepping position. Someone was leaving in the body shop. So I asked my boss, hey, can I have this person's position basically when they leave? And he was like, I'm still going to put my feelers out, but I'll consider it basically. Like I'll heavily consider it. And it didn't even take a few days. And he's like, go in the body shop.
Okay.
So I went in the body shop with some little tools I had, and I just kept building up my tools. That's huge because if you already have a small set of tools, you can get an opportunity really, really quick. If you
Yeah.
have nothing at all, it's a little tougher.
Yeah. So when you asked for that position though, you really didn't have a ton of body tech experience, you other than like little bits here and there, right? So he was taking a chance on you.
Yeah, big time.
What It's interesting to me because you kind of talk about being in this rut and being, in your dark spot, and yet you had the confidence to put yourself out there, which I think is a like that takes a lot of courage to say, I want to try this. Give me a chance, take a chance on me. Like I'm willing to step up to the plate. I appreciate your honesty about the dark the dark times in our lives, right?
It's
And pulling ourselves out of them is not always so easy. Do you mind talking a little bit? We don't have to go into the depths of the dark place, but unless you want to, you're totally welcome to. Where whatever you're comfortable with. But I think the transition, like, how do you bring yourself out of that and keep going and get over that little voice that says you've ruined your reputation, like you said, right? Like that, how do we quiet that little voice to allow you to take those bold moves and keep moving forward and be where you are today, like totally shining and like a rock star? How did that happen? How did you do that?
I would say just a relationship with a higher power, that's me, and having a really solid foundation in recovery, like I did in the past, utilize programs, like, so I knew people I could reach out to, in that regard. And then also just listening to what other people were saying and taking their feedback. Because in the past, I've gotten compliments and I'm like, okay, whatever, it's not good enough. And now I'm just like, oh, thank you. So I feel like just accepting the good. And then when
Mm,
criticism comes, like not letting it just ruin my day. So I feel like other people lifting me up and kind of seeing my potential is really what keeps me going. It's not totally within myself yet, but it's definitely getting
mm. I love that. Letting it in when people give you compliments. It's easier said than done, isn't it?
there. Yeah.
I love it though. It's a great mental shift. And I think so many people struggle with it. I know I do, right? Like it's easy to hear it and be like, yeah, 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 whatever. But like that doesn't like it's not real though. Right? Like it's easy to not allow it in. So I appreciate that. That's cool. Um, so this shop, this magical mystical shop that you were at, tell me a little bit about it. These fantastic bosses that you have, they took a chance on you. They've been training you. They've been creating these opportunities for you to learn. Tell me a little bit about it.
So, I mean, I'm like speechless, right?
Yeah.
So, just every opportunity that you can imagine, I feel like I've been given. Like when I got pretty good at body work, there was an opportunity for me to go and get training with Carliner, which is one of the world's top frame
Yeah.
measurement systems. So I kind of went and got some training in New Jersey and came back and had even more of an understanding of that. Just any training that's available to us or any like new product, it's like you said, we have access to it, and our boss thinks it's really important that we have those materials. We do use Terracin system
What's
for
that?
like seam sealing, which is basically like a super speedy factory textured. I'm like doing it
Ooh.
with my
I
hand.
know. I
Seam sealing.
know.
So he's not afraid to like take chances and try new products and then take our feedback too. Like he's like, "Oh, I'm at this trade show. What did you guys want?" And we would be like, "Oh, well, we kind of like this dent puller." And he's like, "Okay, cool, I bought it." So you're right. I think maybe we're just a little spoiled, but
But
I
what a
think
way
it's a
to be.
good
It's
thing.
good. Yeah,
We
absolutely.
don't take advantage of it. We use all the equipment, and if there's something that maybe we wouldn't use, we're honest about that too. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's all I can say. And my boss is awesome. Everyone that works there is awesome. There's not like one person where you're like, oh, they're just there. So our
Mm.
shop really doesn't have that, which I think is super important.
How large of a shop is it?
Um,
Like how
I
many
would say
people?
medium sized.
Okay. Okay.
We have about, I don't want to be exact. I think we have
That's
about
okay.
12 employees or so.
Okay. Okay.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's me. Yeah, not huge, but not tiny either. Um, just from the videos that you post, I mean, and if folks who are listening or haven't followed Cassandra, definitely go follow her and check out her content. But check out the shop. I mean, I feel like in watching your videos, like it's a glimpse into what I think is possible for the industry, and it's this like clean, neat, well equipped, high technology, people working together as a team. it's the high tech industry, professional industry that like we know it to be, not the thing that I think a lot of people think of when they think of body shops, right? Like dirty, dingy,
Yeah.
like people throwing things around, like the like
Yeah.
perception of the industry versus what's possible is so polar opposite. And your shop seems to be such a great example of what's possible out there.
Yeah. I mean, I have to agree with you. Like any shop, we're not perfect. Does every single car get a mat? Like there's little things, but I think through also making the reels, like it helps you to like elevate your shop and get
Mm,
people excited. So I think there is that element of like, we want to show what's possible and always be safe. And I think it just kind of is an extension of that, like what we
yeah,
want to see our shop as. So I think
yeah.
it's cool. It's not my shop, by the way. It's my boss's shop.
Yes.
Bob's, not my shop.
But there's that sense of ownership, and I think that's what makes all the difference in the world, right? When your employees, like as somebody, I was a former shop owner, right? So
Yeah.
when I heard my employees talk about it as their shop, it made me happy because it meant that
Yeah.
they took pride in it and that, they felt a sense of ownership. So I think that's really awesome. It sounds like your boss is doing something right. So that's very
Definitely.
cool. Okay, so and you wound up there kind of by accident, like by chance, right? Like it was
Yeah.
just seemed like a good shop, took a chance on it. What do you think made them willing to take a chance on you? Whether the first job or whether when you asked for the raise and you were not in your best place, not the raise, the new position, I should say, the movement into the body shop. Like what made them take the chance on you? Do you know?
I mean, I feel like even though I did make mistakes, I was always a hard worker. So even if I was in like a bad space, it's not like I didn't work at work. So I feel like, what I did build up was enough for him to be like, okay, this is just me like making a theory
Yeah.
up. But
No, absolutely.
um, with my prepping experience, that's mostly what I did for a lot of my career was just prepping. So I
Yeah.
prepped for paint and for primer and was in different environments. So it's not like he maybe didn't hear me, but so I think just working on that positive part of my reputation of a good worker, I think is probably what helped.
Nice.
But he could have not even known me at all. These are
Right?
theories, but that's what I hope.
Okay. I like it. And as far as the gender thing, I mean that hasn't come up at all, which I actually it's awesome to hear. Did you feel like that was ever an issue in your career
Um,
leading up to this at all?
to be honest, I feel like when I was younger, it was kind of something I made a big deal. And I don't feel like any good or like reputable shops focus on that really.
Mm,
If anything, they're more like uplifting. So anyone that doesn't really support females or someone different, they don't really last in those environments, which I think is positive. So I've had really good experiences where if someone's constantly putting someone down, they don't really last. So I think that's kind of something that should continue.
yeah. That's awesome. And I think there's an important point that you made in there that I don't want to get lost is that like the good shops, right? Like the good shops, it's a non-issue. Maybe at other shops it is, but the good ones, they don't care about gender, they care about passion and skill and curiosity and willingness to learn and all of
Yeah.
the rest of the things, right? And so it goes back to your comment of like there are good shops out there. There is the right place for you. It's just finding the place that where gender is a non-issue.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. How did your family and friends and folks in your life react when you decided to pursue this career path of instead of fashion or any of the other
Well,
things that you might have pursued?
it's funny because my uncle, he owned Southington Auto Body, which is a small
Oh,
shop in Southington, but I didn't really
okay.
like we didn't really connect like
Okay.
on a professional level, so it's not like I learned from him necessarily, but
Okay.
when I told him about it, I just remember him going, "Are you sure?" And then I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sure." Like when I was going to Lincoln, and then he would go, "But are you sure?" Like I think he asked me like 5 times with like the empty silence, and I was like, "I'm freaking doing this, man." So like, you know, my mindset, I'm doing it. like I said, I wasn't super passionate when I first started, but it really built over time. And the people I met, like, it was a wrap at a certain point where I'm like, okay, this is my fate. I'm here. I'm doing my thing. So now he's super supportive. I just saw him at a car show recently, and I think he's kind of impressed. He tells people about my Instagram and stuff.
Aw.
Um, so it feels good to have a good relationship with him now. Well,
Yeah.
and be able to bond with him through that too.
Yeah. That's awesome. And now I understand you had at least a little bit of exposure to the industry, at least knowing it existed when you were
Yeah,
younger. Like when I was young, I had been exposed to mechanics, but I'd never been exposed to the body shop world. Like I didn't even know that that was a thing, right? Like I didn't
yeah,
know anybody who did it. It wasn't in my periphery at all. We didn't have a program in high school. Like it wasn't there. And it's interesting because I feel like I'm one of those people that like, had I been exposed to some other things when I was younger, I might have gone down some different paths. Like I didn't discover body work until, I was in my 40s. I didn't discover,
really,
yeah, like welding and fabrication and that kind of stuff until I was in my 40s. So, and like I knew they existed, right? But I just never really explored it or had the opportunity to. So it's that exposure piece. I didn't know that the body shop world existed when I was young. So you at least had like some sort of exposure to it, even if it
yeah,
wasn't like on a great terms.
yeah. I
But
mean, to be honest, whenever we visited when I was a kid, I thought he was a mechanic the whole time.
okay.
Because, like you said, you just
We
don't.
don't know.
It's
Yeah.
a car. It's getting fixed. That's all I know. But
Right.
like you said, when I was older, I was like, oh, okay, cool.
When
But
you
I
were
see.
good, sorry.
I looked on your page a lot and I saw like how you were doing some restoration stuff. Like I'd
Mhm.
be curious to know a little bit more about that because I worked at one restoration shop during like night hours after Southern, and I was just like, I just have so much respect for people that do that.
Oh,
And
and I have so much respect for people who do what you do.
thanks.
It goes back to what you said, like nobody can know everything, and I think there's this expectation of at least people outside of the industry. I think people in the industry understand that we can only know so many things. But people outside of the industry, they're like, "Oh, you're a car person. Well, then therefore you must know everything. Let me ask you a question
Yeah,
about which camshaft came stock in a 1969 Camaro." And I'm like, I
right?
don't,
I get these
what?
questions.
Like, I don't know. I don't need to know, and we can't know everything, right? So yeah, I have gotten into restoration later in life, and I learned it through these all-female builds that I was leading, and so I was mostly learning from other women, right? So the women who would come out and work on the builds, they would teach me their skills. So I got to learn like a little bit from here, a little bit from here, kind of all over. But
Nice.
now we're doing a build that's more collision than it is restoration. And I'm lost. Like I don't know. I'm like, I don't know where to start if I'm not stripping it all down to bare metal.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
just it's like a totally different set of skills doing collision than it is restoration, and there's some overlap obviously, but
Yeah.
it's a different world. It really is. So I have a ton of respect for what you do. You've got to bring cars back to factory and to standards. And I think that's the thing a lot of people don't understand about the about the collision industry, um, is these standards that you guys have to have things up to, and different techniques that the different manufacturers want you
Yeah.
held to. What do you think is like the most surprising thing that like people wouldn't know about your industry and what you do for a living that you wish people knew?
Um, hopefully this is funny to you guys, but the first thing that popped in my head was aftermarket parts are not always the best for your repair. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
So if you can advocate with the shop and with insurance to get factory parts, that'd be cool. Just saying.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
um I would say also that because I know it's kind of like magic. You see your car wrecked and then you see it fixed. I mean, now we have social media, so if you want to see that stuff, you can like go to my page. But it's a lot of people caring a lot about your car, basically.
Mm.
So like, that's why the deadline is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot more care, I think, than what you might picture.
That's an incredible answer. I love that.
Thanks.
Yeah. The collision industry is a lot of people caring a lot about your car. That's beautiful. And
Thanks.
definitely not how people perceive it, right? It is 100% the opposite of what I think people perceive when it comes to the industry. But
Yeah.
you're so right. It really is, especially at a good shop, right? There's crappy shops that give us
Yeah.
all a bad name, but at a good shop, it is a lot of people putting a whole lot of care and love into your vehicle. That's cool. All right. We have to do some explaining of this aftermarket parts caveat that you had, because not everybody knows what that means. So explain me what you mean. I agree
So
with you, but
basically, to simplify that, in an ideal world, if you crash your Honda, you would get the part from Honda. And the aftermarket is basically like usually less expensive version of that part that fits a little differently. That's all.
yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes there's really phenomenal aftermarket parts. And then sometimes there are not. and and I think probably one of the biggest challenges that, because on the mechanical side I deal with this, I'm sure you guys do as well, and especially even more so because you have insurance to contend with. A lot of times, for folks who don't know this, a lot of times insurance won't cover the OEM part,
Yeah.
or the original equipment manufacturer is what OEM stands for those who don't know. So a lot of times insurance won't cover it unless you advocate for yourself and really kind of push the issue. But there's this kind of idea that a part is a part is a part is a part, that if I
Yeah.
get it from Honda, or I get it from Joe's auto shop, or if I get it from, whatever parts store, that it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
And why the big price difference? Because they're not all the same.
But if you're a good technician, most of the time you can get things to look really nice. You know what I
Right.
mean? So you know in your head what to kind of tweak and stuff. So a good technician is going to make that part look the best they can do. But
The
sometimes
best they can do. Exactly.
you have that overlap. That's all I'm saying. No hate.
Yeah. Right. No, it's that we have to make it work instead of it
Yeah.
just working. And then it's not always going to be 100% spot on. So yeah, sometimes the cost of things is the cost of things because it equates to quality. So there's
Yeah.
that. Just a little side note for folks. It's interesting because I deal with that misperception a lot of the trades, when especially like novice or hobbyist women come in to work on the all-female builds at Girl Gang Garage, and they'll come in and they'll be working on a bumper or whatever repair it is that they're working on, and 2 days into it, they're like, oh, now I understand why it cost so much to repair my bumper when I got in that fender
Yeah.
bender. It's like, yes, exactly, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
There's a lot involved and people don't realize it. Oh my gosh. Okay, so goals and aspirations for you. Like, you knew you wanted to be in body, as a body tech. You created that opportunity for yourself. You sought it out. You've been learning, you've been teaching yourself, being taught by others. What's your next step? Do you know? Are you happy where you're at and you want, I mean, obviously you love your shop and I assume you want to stay there. But is there the next target goal in sight yet, or not
Um,
yet?
I would say there's a few things that run through my mind, and it's like I was just telling Alan this morning, I don't think I'm ever going to get to a place where I'm comfortable going around and calling myself an A tech, but I think I'm like a B plus tech right now. So I'm happy with that. And I basically just want to continue to work on, but once you get really good at one thing, like I was taking all the big hits, so I was doing a lot of structural. I
Okay.
think I got decent at it. And then now I'm doing more like tear downs and reassembly, which also takes a lot of like gentle and patience. And so I'm getting good at that. And then so I was welding and now I'm reassembling. And so you kind of get good at something. And then once you get really good at it, you do something else. And then you have to like rebuild those skills and go back to those skills. So it's always
Yeah.
like a balancer, you know?
Okay.
But that didn't answer your question. My goal is
That's okay.
to become a better technician than I am right now. And hopefully in the future, maybe Alan and myself can, you know, either own this shop or own our own shop. That's
Right.
everyone's dream, you know what I
Sure.
mean? But definitely keep going the way I'm going. That would make me happy.
Okay. I love it. Does it work for you to have this kind of do one thing and then move to another thing and then come back? Like you were kind of saying, like your skills get a little rusty when you're not doing it. You got to go back to it and kind of relearn some of that stuff. Do you enjoy that piece of it, like bouncing around a little bit, kind of always a new adventure, always a new
Yeah.
challenge?
Because I know some shops you can really specialize even more. So
Mhm.
I could only be on the frame machine and doing only structural, or I could work somewhere that does only reassembly or only tear downs. And they have like those special situations. But I
Yeah.
really like how I'm at a place where I don't paint, but it's almost start to finish. So it's like
Nice.
I get the job when it comes in, I fix it, I see it when it's painted, I'm putting it together. So like to me, I like having like a wide range of skills because it's like kind of scary and challenging, right? Because every car is so different, but the
Yeah.
same. It's like I love it. But I was wondering what you love the most.
Oh my goodness. Um, at the moment, it's interesting. Like I love all of it. I'm very similar to you. I like doing a little bit of everything. I like that it never gets stale because there's always a new challenge. Um, I of all the things that I do though, like I love this. Like I love talking to other women in the trades and hearing their stories. Yeah, it's just it's the best, and I love hearing all the different perspectives. Um, I love, and I wish folks who are listening in the audio version, like I wish you could see this because when she just said that like it's scary and exciting with a twinkle in her eye, like this excitement. It's this total shift of what we consider scary, right? Like most people be like, "Oh, it's scary," but no, she's like, "It's scary," and she's so excited. Like that
Yeah.
is such a cool thing to see. I love working with people. So what I do at my shop, I love. I like the work itself. I've always loved the work itself, but teaching the work and watching people conquer their fears
Yeah.
and do something that they thought was scary and it turns out to not be so scary, like that is my favorite thing. And whether it's coaching people on how to work on cars or whether it's coaching shop owners, because I do a lot of like shop management coaching, um it's all the same thing. Like I love the teaching
Yeah.
part of it, and I know you do too. Like that's why you do the videos you do on social.
Yeah, I do. Because I remember being in that place where I'm like, "Ooh, I don't know if I can fix that." And, like, getting to the place of, like, "Oh, okay, I know I can fix that," like, and slowly getting that.
Yeah.
So I like trying to give other people that feeling of, like, "It's not a big deal, you can do it." Like,
Yeah.
"You can't mess this up," or, like, stuff like that where they're in good hands in situations where it's like, "Okay, just try to fix this and see
Yes.
what you can do." And then if not, like, I'm right here, you know? So just having that help and, like, people helped me basically. So if I can even be a small piece of like why an old timer like stays and helps, or a small piece of why someone new stays and keeps trying, like that's really it for me. Like that makes
That's
me
awesome.
happy too. But I
Heck
was
yeah.
wondering, I have like these questions for you too.
Yeah.
So when you're like helping build people's confidence, what do you think is like the main thing that your shop or you says or does to like get people to that zone?
Oh, that's an amazing question. I honestly think like you already hit the nail on the head with that. It's like showing them that mistakes are okay. And that like the magic of what we do as tradespeople, right? We are people who build and fix and make things with our own two hands, right? Like that is what we do. That is our magic. And the power in that is that there is nothing that I can't build or fix or make. Give me enough time, give me enough resources, right? I heard a podcaster once say that given a long enough time frame, I will always win the game. And I thought that was like such a fantastic mindset. Like
Nice.
I may not win it immediately, but I will win it eventually. And so I think a lot of what I teach at my shop is every car that comes in is a new challenge. And I don't know the answers. I've been doing this for 25 years, but I don't know all the answers. And so when people come to me and say, what tool do I use for this? I'm like, I don't know. Let's try a few. Let's see what works. Right. Let's try this. Oh, that didn't work. That's not long enough. Okay, we need an extension. Okay, like maybe we
Yeah.
need some more leverage. Like let's try different things. And I think letting people see me mess up and not know the answers, and letting them make mistakes and then helping them fix them, because there's so much power in that moment when you think like, oh crap, I effed up, and then somebody shows you how easy it is to fix it, and then you fix
Yeah.
it yourself. You're like, oh, it's not a big deal that I effed up.
Yeah.
That's everything, right? That's everything. And I think for women, particularly in this industry, I think most new people, but women particularly, we have this massive looming fear of making mistakes.
Yeah.
Like it's this horrible, horrible thing to do.
Yep. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm in the way. I'm so sorry.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Can we get rid of the I'm so sorries? I am so
Yeah.
guilty. I am so guilty of that. I apologize for things that are 100% not my fault
Yep.
all the time. Yeah, that needs to go away for sure. Making mistakes is part of it. It's part
Just
of
order
it.
the part. You broke it. It's done.
Yes.
You don't have to be sorry. It's part of the job. Those break all the time.
Yep, it happens. Like life happens. It's okay. And it's nothing we can't fix. So that's
Yeah.
the cool thing about what we do is we can fix it. You can break it, we can fix it. All good.
Yep.
All good. I love it. Okay, I love this. This has been a great conversation. Is there a skill that you have yet to learn? You kind of dabbled or talked about how you've got a couple of different areas that you've gotten proficient in.
Yep.
You've been doing kind of the heavy collision stuff, the disassembly, you've done the priming, you've done kind of the more detailed stuff. Is there an area of the shop or a particular tool or a particular skill that you haven't yet learned or haven't done much with that you'd love to do more of?
It would be very cool to learn how to paint because that's kind of like the missing piece of my puzzle. But
Okay.
it's a whole nother, there's a reason why there's a paint shop and a body shop.
Yeah.
So it's a whole nother skill set. It's a whole job.
Mhm.
So it's like I want to learn that, but I respect that it's a craft as well of its own. So like I don't always, maybe I would have to pay one of our painters to stay a weekend and like help me learn and an overtime thing. That's what I fantasize about, but I'm usually tired. Um, so I feel like that's the missing piece of the puzzle when it comes to like auto body. But in general, my boyfriend was helping me fix my CRV recently, and he had to use the acetylene torch. And
Oh,
I would like to say I would like to get over my fear of fire because I was like, I'm gonna drop that thing and it's gonna slice me in half or something. Like I get fearful. So fear of fire and
okay.
standing directly under the four side, like the lift,
Uh-huh.
standing directly under it. Because for auto body, you're really like going around the car,
Yeah.
taking off the front bumper, the rear bumper. You're not fully in the middle under the lift. So there's
Oh,
like little
interesting.
things where I'm like, I want to improve some of my fears. So they're not really skills, they're
Interesting.
fears, but yeah.
I love your perspective on things. You have such like
Thanks.
a fabulous way of like shifting your mindset, and it comes so natural to you, and the things that a lot of people would say in just such a different way, right?
Thanks.
You have this way of looking inward, taking responsibility, and yet not in a blame way and not in a beating yourself up way, just in a like at peace with self, and um I don't know, willingness to look inward. It's just really, you have a really fantastic way about you. I'm so enjoying learning
Thanks.
more about you and hearing your story. I'm inspired by hearing you talk. This is
Thanks. I'm inspired by hearing you too. And I was like, I
oh.
didn't know what to expect. I get the like little jitters. So I was like,
Yeah,
let's just go on early and see how it is. Because
I love it.
I was nervous.
I love it. And nothing to be nervous about. And so maybe this will translate. Ooh, okay. So maybe this will translate into something else. You were nervous about this. It turned out to not be so scary. You're nervous about standing under lifts. So maybe that's not so scary.
Yeah, trust me, Alan's trying to get me over that fear. So trust me, he's working on that because he's like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, I can like rip the car apart and put it back together, but I can't stand under the lift. That's
I mean, I think there's a valid fear there, right? Like there's a healthy amount of fear that should be had about getting, it's like being afraid of a hot stove, right? Like
Yeah,
don't be afraid to cook, but maybe don't touch it either, right? Like so
right.
it is legitimately potentially a dangerous thing being underneath a car if you don't have it set up right. So a healthy dose of fear is good.
Yeah.
However, I strongly encourage having like a dance party or something underneath the car at some point. Like make sure it's on the locks. You and Alan, like go
Yep.
have a little dance party. It'll get you over it. You'll realize it's not nearly as so scary as you thought it was.
I'm gonna do it.
All right.
Do you have any fears?
I am horribly afraid of water. Um, I love pools. I love being by the ocean. But I am terrified of water, which fortunately doesn't impact my career at
Hmm.
all, thankfully. I don't have to worry about that all that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, like when I was young, I couldn't go over bridges. They would like super freak me out. I think I
Wow.
died at sea in a last life or something like that because it's totally irrational.
Hmm.
Yeah. And we all have weird irrational fears, don't we?
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing. It's kind of interesting that our fears are opposite.
Right? Like I have no fear of being underneath cars. Even when I probably should. I probably don't have enough of the healthy fear part. Cuz yeah, I'm not going to disclose my bad habits, but yeah, I should have more of a fear of it than I do.
You're awesome.
You're fantastic. This has been so much fun. We've got to wrap this up. So, because we're already almost done with our hour. So I've got to ask you my final question that I always love asking. Everybody's favorite question. If you had the opportunity to go back and talk to baby Cassandra, little younger version of you, what are your words of advice for her?
Just chill out, man. Things are gonna happen for you. Just chill out and learn from people that are around you right now. That's what I would say.
I love it. I love it. We're always so anxious to hurry up and get there, right? And it all happens. One of my favorite sayings that it's my little mantra that I kind of remind myself of regularly, sometimes multiple times a day, sometimes it's weeks in between, but I have to constantly remind myself, trust the timing of your life. Just
Yep,
just trust the timing. Just let go and trust the timing.
that's a good one.
Yeah. All right. This has been fantastic. You're
It
amazing.
has.
Anybody who is not following Cassandra, make sure you go follow her. Her videos are super educational and fun and light and she's just a really rad person, as you could see and get this little glimpse into her life throughout this hour. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for saying yes and
Thanks.
agreeing to do this despite your nerves.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I had a great time talking with you and learning more about
Yeah.
what you do too. So I really
Ditto.
appreciate it.
Yeah, we got to stay in touch more offline. This is not the end. We're gonna talk more.
Yeah.
But for now, thank you so much for joining me. And folks at home, I hope you guys enjoyed meeting Cassandra as much as I did. Definitely make sure you go follow her. Her links are down in the description below. Check out her shop, check out her social media accounts, maybe learn a thing or two from her, but definitely follow her on her journey to see what is next. Thank you guys all for being a part of this revolution to normalize women in the trades. And I appreciate each and every one of you. I definitely appreciate our partnership with our phenomenal sponsors, DriveTime, for everything that they do behind the scenes to help bring more diversity into the trades. Make sure you come back next week to meet another incredible tradeswoman. And of course, make sure you come back every Monday to see another archived episode from this series, Past Life, as an Instagram live series. So 2 times a week, you get an opportunity to watch the With Her Two Hands podcast. Over 210 episodes so far that you can go back and get inspiration from and meet some incredible women and a whole lot more amazing episodes still to come. If you know somebody that we should interview, drop me a line. Let me know. I would love to have her on as a guest. And until next week, be good to yourselves, be good to one another, be good human beings, and we'll see you later.